Yo, 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 yo. Good morning, guys. Happy Monday. Hope everyone had an amazing weekend and you're ready to have an amazing week, that you're excited for Monday. You're doing something that you love and that you're passionate about. If not, that's a whole different story. We can talk about that later. So, this morning I went to the cardiologist and I had an echocardiogram done. It's something that I've done somewhat routinely for a while since I was in college and I first started having palpitations. If you don't know what palpitations are, basically it's like being able to feel your heartbeat. For me, I have a mitral valve prolapse, which means one of the valves prolapses. It doesn't close all the way. Um, Occasionally, it's not all the time, but when it does so, it adds like a quick beat, so two beats in a row, and then there's a longer pause before the next beat. So I can feel the two quick ones, and then I can feel like this gap feels like my heart stopped almost, but it's only momentarily, it's briefly. So in college, I started experiencing that during like a really stressful state and not knowing what's going on. I think I'm gonna die. Like it feels like my heart's stopping. I can feel my heart beating, and there's like real long, hard, heavy pounding when after the pause, and it comes back. Scary, obviously. So had that tested out. I found out what I had. It gave me some peace of mind, but over the years, those palpitations come up, especially in stressful situations. It can create a lot of anxiety. And when you have that anxiety, it creates an emotional response in your body and you feel like you're going to die. You then feed it thoughts thinking that you're going to die, or that something bad is going to happen. And when you go down that rabbit hole of those continual dangerous thoughts, which generate these stressful, panic emotions in the body, it is really easy to be overcome with anxiety. It is really easy to then spiral into a panic attack. And this happens with us and happens on all fronts for different people. These forms of anxiety are met with an emotional response in the body. The body responds in a way, and it generates this pattern of negative, disempowering, scary thoughts, which lead to scary emotions or things that we feel in the body, and it just goes further and further and further. And people who have been debilitated by anxiety have panic attacks, and they would much rather just remain in bed where it's safe than to get out and do things. And it robs you of the richness of life. It robs you from being able to experience life. So throughout this process, and I'm now 35, so this started when I was about 20, so I've got about 15 years of this. I have learned not just to manage the condition, which I can manage the condition with stress management, and I can manage it with what I eat too, because I understand that like if I am consuming lots of grain, breads, pastas, it increases like my gas in my body, which makes it easier for me to feel the palpitations. And when you feel the palpitations and you respond with a negative thought or respond with the negative emotions in the body, it just exacerbates that, and you start feeling those even more, which makes everything worse. It amplifies it, it multiplies everything that's going on. So that's how it leads to like debilitating anxiety or panic attacks. So what I've learned, and I've learned to kind of master this over the years, one, I have the reassurance. I know that it's not anything serious. I know that I'm not going to die. So I can control the thoughts that come up when those happen. So my happiness formula says that you need to identify what you can and cannot control. You let go of the things that you can't control, and you fucking master the things that you can. So I've applied it to this situation. Even back in the day, I didn't even realize that I was doing it. Now I have an operational vocabulary to be able to teach it to other people. But the way that you deal with anxiety and stress and keep from getting into those panic situations is that you identify the things that you can and cannot control. So certain feelings, certain emotions that come up in your body, you can't control at the time. They come up. You let go of those things. I understand that I can do things to manage the palpitations, but occasionally they're going to come up and I don't have any control over that. And when I stop trying to control, when I accept that that's what it is, and I master the things I can master, one of the things that you can master is the meaning that you give. The meaning you give, and whether or not you give thought or weight to the thoughts that come up. And when you see a disempowering, when you observe and you understand you're not your mind, so when these thoughts come up, it's not you. It's your mind. It's your mind going all over the place. And when you see it, when you don't give weight to that thought, then it cuts off the emotional response that's connected to that thought. And you replace those thoughts with positive, empowering ones, affirmations, reassurance that you're okay. So, understanding that our thoughts create our emotions, and disempowering thoughts can create negative emotions in our body, but also emotions can trigger thoughts. We understand that we do have control over these things. And when you can manage and control thoughts, when you can observe the negative things, the things that disempower you, the things that will put you in a panic state, and choose not to associate with them, choose not to give them power, choose not to follow the same pattern that you always have, because you introduce a pattern interrupt, you can prevent going down that rabbit hole of anxiety. You can prevent getting to that panic state. And you can begin to take back the power in these situations and regain your peace of mind. So this is something I teach regarding anxiety, is to be able to identify the thoughts, identify what thoughts are creating the emotional response in your body, to also heal these things at an emotional level. So you have to be able to feel and to see that those emotions are a result of thoughts. And if you can change the thoughts, you can change the emotions. And just because something happens doesn't mean you have to go to that immediate emotional place. It doesn't have to trigger that same emotion, especially if you learn to manage the thoughts that create that emotion. So this is a way for you to give power back to yourself, for you to reclaim your power in the situations of anxiety or the things that trigger anxiety for you. And this is applicable to not just things that happen in the body, but situations. So, social situations where you get out around a lot of people and you start to feel an emotion in the body, and then the thoughts trigger and they go back and forth and they just escalate it to a crazy place. It's like playing ping pong at a super fast level. So when you learn to identify that, you learn to manage the thoughts, you learn to choose thoughts that empower you and do not put you into that crazy anxious emotional state. You really take back your power, you take back your control, and you exercise it in those situations, and it helps to alleviate it. One of the other things that has to do with anxiety, and that's the deeper embedded root causes of it, is not being in touch with your purpose and not being in touch with who you truly are. And if you do not know what will get you approval, acceptance, or what will keep you safe, if that's something that you learned at an early level when you were conditioned, then you're naturally going to be in an anxious state. And for women, I see a lot of anxiety and stress in women. When women are out of their natural state, which is a feminine state, which is a state of being rather than doing, it's a state of relaxed in the moment rather than worry and stress and trying to figure things out and get things done, that can create a lot of stress, which leads to anxiety in the body as well. So that's another way. But for these situations where the thoughts evoke emotions and there's an emotional response to the things that happen, you can absolutely control these, you can manage these, and you can alleviate stress and anxiety and even the panic attacks in your life with this work. And it doesn't require a medication or anything like that. Medication sometimes can be an acute intervention to help you get to a point where you can then control and manage these things. But this is the most empowering way, and this is the most foolproof way to be able to do that, is to, one, look at the root of where anxiety comes from, but also learn to manage your thoughts and manage your emotions through your thoughts. So if this resonates with you, if there's someone in your life that would benefit from this, please share it with them, or tag anybody in it. If you have any comments, questions, specifics, or you want to get on the phone and talk to me about maybe what you're going through, which I know this is such a common thing that so many people experience, and not a lot of people talk about, because they think that something's wrong with them. Nothing's wrong with you. You've just learned some patterns and ways of responding to stress or anxious situations that aren't serving you. And if you can learn to take control of those and repattern, you can get back to living the life that you want, which is a life of freedom and being able to experience experiences without feeling like you just need to lay in bed all day or you need to protect yourself all the time. And it helps to put you in a joyous and harmonious state with who you really are. So love you guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Oh, and my health is great, by the way. I've never needed medical intervention for the mitral valve prolapse. I never need medication. I just go back for these regular checks to make sure that it's good. There's no regurgitation, which is like, blood, fluid, whatever, backing up into the chamber of the valve, which I've never had a problem with. So Love you guys so much. Thank you. Have a wonderful Monday. Bye.